21 days ago, we walked by our old house that we just lost due to the mold issue I've been sharing with you guys. And it's in the same neighborhood. So we were walking by and we see the flower bed that's out, it's a kind of a rock wall by the street with a flower bed in it and a tree. Totally broken. And we didn't know who did it. We went to the front door to see if there was any, note left. And of course there was not. And so we were like, well, it's our responsibility to fix it. Obviously, it's unfortunate, but whatever. So we just kind of went to that next step, naturally. And we contacted my father-in-law who does that work. He actually put those in and installed them for us. And so we were going to pay him, get everything situated, all that kind of stuff, right? So he was coming back in town like the next Monday. Well, that same week, we went out there again. We walked past it, and my neighbor ran out. And my neighbor said, hey, I was trying to catch you guys. And again, we don't live at that house anymore. We were just walking by that old house. It's kind of haunted at this point in time. Between everything that's happened at the house, we were ready to get out, to say the least. And we're at, obviously the other house that's in the same neighborhood, probably a couple blocks away. But we're walking by and my neighbor comes out running out and it's like, hey, I know who did that. And I go, oh, that's awesome. Who did it? I was like, let's, obviously address him, figure out what the next steps are and stuff like that. And they go, it's the guy on the corner. So okay, awesome. He goes, you should go talk to him. I was like, trust me, I will. I'm not worried about that. I will go address the situation. So I knocked on the door and a younger, female opened the door. And I believe it was the daughter based on, what I would expect. And I said, hey, I live 2 doors up. I don't technically live there, but like our house is up there, and I believe that you guys might have rocked it or wrecked into the rock wall. And she instantly admitted to it, and she said, yeah, that was my friend. She meant to park. She meant to go tell you. And I go, totally fair. Awesome, honest mistake. I was like, can I get her number? I would love to get in contact with her so she can fix this. Now, granted, this is 19 days ago, so the effort to reach out to me was bare minimum, and I understood that. But nonetheless, I got her number. I sent her a quick text. I said, hey, totally fine. I get, accidents happen. Trust me on this. I've made way worse mistakes in my life. I'm not here to judge, but are you guys able to take care of this? And I can send you a quote from my father-in-law who's able to put this back together very quickly. You guys don't need to go hire anybody. And so I sent her the quote. And she said, yeah, totally fine. Give me about one day. I'm like, totally, fair, reasonable, all that kind of stuff. And I didn't really anticipate anything at that point in time. Well, 2 days go by and I say, hey, just following up on this, I want to make sure this is taken care of. We're trying to sell this house. The builder is buying this back. They're going to come visit the house. I want to make sure this is taken care of before they do so. And I got a snooty text of saying, I don't have the money. I'm a broke college student and I can't pay you right now. And I go, well, that's not going to work with me because it doesn't matter which situation you're in. You broke something. It is your responsibility to go fix that something. And the way I was, grew up, guys, is it doesn't matter what position I was in. If I messed something up, my parents wouldn't even be involved. They would just tell me, hey, you're going to go take care of it. And they would say, you need to take the ownership. And that's how I grew up. And I'll share a story specifically with you about that. So I was 16 years old. I went to a Halloween party and I had a good time, to say the least. I'll leave it at that. And I threw up all over the basement, which doesn't sound like a good time, but that was the later part of the night when I don't remember. So the part I remember was a fun time. But I was 16. I did stupid stuff, just like any other 16-year-old kid, and I fully admitted in my wrongdoing. Okay. The next day I wake up, my parents say, hey, Reagan's parents called you. You need to go over there and address them face to face. I was 16 years old. My parents weren't going to drive me over and they weren't going to go pay the bill of all the damage I caused. They said, you need to go take care of that. I was 16. I had a job at Skyline Chili making, $7.25 an hour at the time. It wasn't like I was made a bunch of money, but I had to find a way. So what happened? I had to be resourceful. I needed to go work some more hours. I needed to get paid more money to then take care of the issue I caused. I also went over to the parents, knocked on the door, shook their hands, walked into their kitchen and explained, I was wrong and I'm here to make up for it. And I promise this won't happen again. So that was an expectation in my household that's just how things were handled. So it wasn't like I knew mom and dad would bail me out. It's not like I knew mom and dad would pay the bill. I knew I had to pay the bill. It wasn't even like, it was just like built into the culture within my household of like, you mess something up, it's okay, but you have to take care of it. You have to deal with the consequences. That's how I was raised. Well, that didn't happen with this situation. Now, granted, this girl was a 20-year-old college student. You know, looking backwards, I was a 16-year-old high school student, barely even, able to even have a job at that point in time. And I still figured it out at that age. At 20 years old, she started texting me that she couldn't handle it. She's like, I'm going to tell my mom and dad to make sure they handle it. And there was constant lies in this text string. And I'm going to share actually the text with you guys today. So you guys think I'm making this up. I will read word by word of what actually was sent to me and the shocking nature of these texts. So, first, obviously, she's coming through and saying, sorry, yeah, I quoted, I'll send you the money. Totally fine. Nothing to like kind of worry about. But very quickly, she said, I also want to clarify I spoke with my parents. Lie number one. And they have made it clear that this is my responsibility, not theirs. Because of that, I will not be passing their information to you because I was asking for the parents' information once she was saying she couldn't pay it. And so there happened to be an in-between of the girl on the door, or on the corner. This is obviously her friend that made the mistake. Totally fine. Again, just own up, pay up, be done with it, take responsibility, take ownership. That's all I'm asking here. And so I went back to the friend's house and said, hey, guys, listen, the friend's not willing to pay, but she's also not willing to give me her parents' contact. So I'm going to go straight through you guys to get the parents' contact. To which I got the parents' contact and I called them and they tried to initially deny responsibility, saying, well, she's just a new driver. She's 20 years old. She's a grown adult. Get over it. Grow up. And I'm not here to really feel bad for anybody here. It's, I understand it might be a mistake. I understand it's a honest mistake. It happens. I'm not here to judge like by any means, but like, we're not going to play this negotiation game. You broke something at my house. You're going to pay for it. That's what happens. That's called the real world. You need to grow up and stop being so coddled. And so this parent said, okay, I'm going to meet you at the house. So let's walk through the next couple steps. So the parent said that, but the night before, the parent didn't know because I didn't contact them. And I found out from the parents on the corner that the parents had no idea. So this girl initially lied because she was trying to hide it from her parents. Again, I understand. I can relate to that. I understand it. You're trying to hide something from your parents. Again, another lie. So she goes through this text and she says, I can't magically have $800 for you. Sir, you need to talk to me, not Sonia's parents. This is not their responsibility. I go, I understand, but I need to talk to your parents. I need a contact information to make sure this is accounted for and paid for. That's all I'm asking. And so, may I pay in cash? Absolutely. You can Venmo me the full amount if that's the easiest route. And she said, I'll give you cash tomorrow morning. Okay, that works. And then that's literally all that was said verbatim. Okay, that works. So much attitude for one. She started proceeding with some attitude here. I said, what time will you be at my house tomorrow? She said, 12. I was like, all right, see you there. And she says, can't wait. Smiley face, smiley face. Just lack of accountability across the board. This is why people fail. And they want to blame everybody else besides themselves. Remember what happened here. Remember, let's back up in the story. She backed up into my flower bed. I was not at my house. She then supposedly knocked on my door. And then I never heard from her because I wasn't there. And so for 18 days, I didn't know about this situation. She knew my neighbors. She knew she could easily, if you wanted to find a way to search me on the internet based on my address, you would be able to find my number. If she really was proactive about this, she would have found me without question. She could have left a note in my mailbox. There's many ways that you could contact me. Based on the conversations I've had with her, I would assume at this point in time, she was just trying to hide it. She also, because my neighbors told me this whole story, would come back to the house to visit her friend, but park on the opposite side of the street. And they said she made no attempt to tell anybody else that this issue happened. Totally lack of accountability. And granted, this would cost us, there was an $800 quote. So, it wasn't like a crazy, crazy bill, but nonetheless, it was expensive for a college student. So the next morning, once I started contacting her parents, we met out at her house at 10 o'clock. And the crazy thing is her parents had to show up for her. She's a 20-year-old grown adult. It's time for parents to stop coddling their kids and have the kids actually address their wrongdoings and consequences that they have, or it's never going to teach them anything. So the same issue persisted with the family. So the dad came out and said, my daughter's a new driver. She's 20 years old. And it was an accident. I go, that's, again, it's totally fine. And I go, well, I have the quote if you want me to just, send it to you. And he goes, well, I'm not paying that. I'm like, this isn't up for negotiation, buddy. I was like, this is what the quote is. This is what's going to be paid. And so he continued to go down the rabbit hole of blaming me as some bad guy for asking for them to pay back the mistake that they had. And it constantly was like that. And honestly, right when they got out of the car, when I said, nice to meet you guys, shook his hand first, and I shook her hand. I have it on video just in case something happened. The Ring doorbell does show a lot. She wouldn't even look me in the eye. She had a lot to say in text, but when she met me in person, she gave the worst fishtail handshake of all time, and it was because I addressed her. And on top of that, she literally would not look at me in the eye. And the day of, she said, I said, hey guys, are you guys on your way? Because the night before there was no clarity as to like what time they would be there. So I just want to make sure you're on your way. 10 a.m. I'm going to head over there. She said, we said we would meet you at 10 o'clock. Do you want my dad to text and drive? You need to calm down, sir. It's not 10 o'clock. We're on our way. I go, okay. She follows up by that and says, boy, B-O-I, I need you to tone down the attitude. Thank you very much. Now, granted, this is a 20-year-old that wrecked into my house, and all I was simply asking for verbatim based on the text is, what time are you going to be at my house? Are you going to pay me? This is also after 18 days of no compliance and also not able to reach out to me, and then followed by a delay, and then also caught her in multiple lies of her not telling her parents, trying to hide it from her parents, also not being able to have the money. All this stuff has happened already to this point. So I'm sitting there, obviously I'm, a grown adult. I'm not going to stoop down to that level. And I just addressed her dad and I said, it's fine. Let's take care of it. And again, he continued to deny responsibility. Eventually he came around to saying, yeah, this is, I was like, guys, at this point in time, it's a hit and run. Like, there's no one that's contacting me. You guys broke something in my house. It's cost $800. This isn't like a negotiation. Eventually I got him to come through, and she to this day never said anything to me. He even asked her, hey, do you have anything to say? And she would not even look me in the eye. This is a 20-year-old grown adult. If you want to be an adult, you have to act like an adult. And if you want to win in life, you have to take responsibility and ownership of your mistakes. And again, dating back to my 16-year-old story, I made mistakes. I'm not here to judge anybody. Trust me on that. I made countless mistakes, but every single time I made sure I owned up to it, and I faced all of the consequences every last time. And if I didn't face the consequences, at this point in time, I wouldn't be where I'm at. But this has persisted to this level of the reason why we keep winning, the reason why we keep overcoming the challenges that we face is because no matter whose fault it is, I just take the responsibility of the situation. So I'll give you a lot of examples that I see in a common everyday type of situation. It's Trump's fault. It's Biden's fault. You know what? Get over your politics. Nobody cares. They don't care about you anyway. You need to own up and fix your life and focus on your life of what you can control. If you want to run for politics, go for it. But if you want to sit here and have your little keyboard warrior hands going at it about what this person's doing, what that person's doing, how it's impacting you, you just sound like a wimp. And honestly, at that point in time, you're also, here's the bigger picture. It's not even a political thing here. It's not saying right, left, middle, whatever the case is. That's not even the point. You're literally deciding to give somebody else the power. If, for her, she's giving me the power because she's saying, it's my fault. If somebody's blaming a politician, they're just giving the other person power. It's, oh, well, this person must have power and they're controlling me. That's all they're doing. I've never been a big believer of that. That's why I'm not real political or I don't really care about politics. I just figure out what the situation, what are all the facts, how can I be most resourceful to fix our life, fix my life, fix my family's life, and help my family. I'll give you another example. And I use this example a lot because I think people can relate to it. If somebody walked into my house, ask yourself in this situation, I'm saying this story and kind of laying this story out. Ask yourself how you would react in this situation. This would tell you instantly if you're a victim mentality or a victor mentality, if you're going to lose or if you're going to win in life, because things like this are going to happen. Okay. Let's just say somebody knocks on your door and you go answer the door and they take a big paint can and they just all over your house. Now, obviously you might grab them by the neck, throw them down, beat them up. This is 2025. I won't get canceled. And if I do, I don't care. But, let's just say they step onto your property and damage your property, and they openly, intentionally do it, and you catch them in the act. What are you going to do? Obviously, let's just say they run away. You can't catch them, okay? Besides the fistica that you would have had. Are you going to point fingers and blame at the person running down the street that it's their fault? Or are you just going to start cleaning up your floor before it gets ruined, because now it's my responsibility? It's not your fault, actually, in fact. However, it is your responsibility to take care of, because if not, your house is going to be messed up with the paint all over the floor and stuff like that. Ask yourself how you would react in that situation. Would you be the person that's pointing and yelling down the street of the person running away? Or would you say, I'm going to take care of my house first? Sure, they might be put to justice down the road, but right now I need to focus on my house. I need to take accountability. I need to take ownership for what's happened in my house. It's not my fault. I'm not going to take blame for this, but I am going to fix the problem. Ask yourself how you reacted to that's quick snippet of the story, because that is how people win or lose in this world. They either take accountability for their actions and others' actions. In fact, they are a leader and they account for everything and they take full ownership, or they don't. And this exact scenario was a 20-year-old female that will not have any success in this world unless she changes her attitude towards everything. Because the thing is, obviously, we were upset, but I wasn't here to, try to prove any point. I was just like, hey, fix my stuff. I'm not here to prove, you guys were in the wrong here. That's not my job. You're going to believe what you want to believe. And I'm not here to fix your belief system, but my job is to fix my house, get my house fixed. Now, however, at the same time, that 20-year-old is going to continue through life. A boss is going to fire her. A spouse is going to break up with her. A friend's going to do her wrong. And every single time, because she has the attitude of she's hiding, she's lying, she's trying to point fingers at somebody that didn't do anything as the wrong person, she is going to consistently give power to everybody else around her, and she is going to be powerless, and she's not going to take any accountability and ownership for what she's done wrong, and she's going to consistently lose. This isn't an attack on the 20-year-old by any means. God bless her, seriously. But the point of this episode is to talk about accountability and ownership. This is a lost art in America. Americans are embarrassing at this point in time. The American culture has shriveled down in so many different ways, specifically with civility, ethics, morality, and all of these other types of things that drive a solid culture. And it's time that people start taking accountability. If we want to live a healthy, happy life, we need to start taking ownership of our life. And if we don't, we're going to live a very miserable life, whether you like it or not. This is a hard episode to do, and it wasn't really planned, but this is what needs to be said, and I don't really care if anybody's offended, to be honest. So I hope you take a big lesson from this, is start to look inward at yourself as owning the situation, taking accountability. And if you do take the situation, you don't get offended by your little ego right now, you will do tremendous things in this world. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens when you start to shift your mentality to an ownership and accountability and a leader. You are going to win at life at a very, very high level. Yes, there will be challenges, but you will look back at this episode is the starting point of winning at your life, especially with the ownership accountability aspect of it. And I hope you take this to heart with the story that just, actually happened real life to us this week. And I hope you use it for your success in the future. And if you want to reach out to me about this, of how to take this to the next level, please do, guys. I greatly appreciate everybody here, and I want everybody here to live a great life. And sometimes you need the hard truth to do so. And I'm here to provide that. I appreciate each and every one of you guys, and I'll see you guys next week.
You've been listening to Money on My Mind with your host, Brennan Schlagbaum. If you found value in today's discussion, share it with someone who could benefit from it too. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already, so you never miss a money mastery tip. Until next time, stay passionate about your financial journey and keep taking bold steps towards your money goals.